and then disappears without a trace.
It was almost like he was saying to the police, come on, I dare you to find some evidence. There isn't any.
It's like swinging the bat at the ball and missing every time.
Authorities soon land on several suspects.
Dating 2-3 guys at a time, that's asking for trouble.
There was a student that she felt uncomfortable around.
You don't know if she dates other people or not?
I don't ask, don't tell.
Now the police are in a race against the clock to find her, dead or alive,
I'm thinking he's doing a virtual drive-by of the crime scene.
and catch a killer who may be on to them. My name is Aphrodite Jones. As a true crime author, I take on controversial cases. I track down the story behind the story, and I won't stop until I get the truth. In today's internet world, we do just about everything online. Find love, meet new roommates, and sometimes even solve a murder. I came to Orange, California to see how some dedicated cops and a family who wouldn't give up did just that. "36-year-old Maribel Ramos has lived in Orange for nearly her entire life. In 2001, she enlisted in the military and soon was up for any challenge.
She liked jumping out of planes. She had no fear whatsoever.
This woman wasn't just some girly girl. She was a badass.
After braving 2 tours in Iraq, Maribel settles back into civilian life in 2008. She enrolls at Cal State Fullerton and also gets a job there, helping student veterans graduate and find careers.
She was scheduled to graduate, and she was the first person in her family that was going to graduate with a college degree, so it was kind of a big deal in her life.
She wanted to become a cop.
Did you think that was a good fit for her?
Yes, because she was in the Army. So I knew that she could be a cop or whatever she wanted to be.
In 2011, Maribel decides she needs some help with her rent.
She placed an ad on Craigslist. She wanted a roommate.
55-year-old Kwang Choi Joy, who goes by KC, answers the ad.
Hey, nice to meet you.
And they're both animal lovers, dog lovers in particular.
Well, this is my home.
And you have a dog?
Yes.
She had a dog, he had a dog, so they hit it off to begin with.
You want to come check it out?
Yeah, please.
Come on in. He's an older man. He's quiet. He's not going to be having people over, parties. I'm like, oh, this is a good match. What a day.
Yeah.
As the two get to know each other, Maribel learns that Casey has come to Southern California looking for a change.
Thank you.
Casey Joy was born in Korea. He was adopted by a family back in Korea.
The family had moved to Tennessee when Casey was a child, and that's where he lived until recently moving to California after losing his job.
He worked for different environmental companies. He had a degree in chemistry.
Casey and Maribel often discuss her job over home-cooked meals.
I know you don't like it that much, but...
Despite their nearly 20-year age difference, Maribel and Casey become fast friends.
You need salt, definitely.
They did a lot of watching movies. They took their dogs for walks regularly.
One of their favorite dog walking spots is a 340-acre regional park called Peters Canyon, located about 5 miles from their home. Casey doesn't have family in the area, but soon Maribel initiates him into the tight and loving Ramos clan.
There's a party going on at my aunt's house. It's so-and-so's birthday.
So she kind of felt sorry for him a little bit.
Yeah, she did. She just felt like, gosh, he's older. He's out here in California, no family.
Good, good. But you missed something, okay?
Casey even starts tutoring Maribel's 14-year-old niece, Giselle, in math.
It was a lot of help, actually. I was able to grasp the things he said. He would write down examples if I didn't get it.
180, 360.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who really didn't have family, who didn't have anybody serious in his life, and Maribel treats him like family. This means everything to Casey Joy.
It's the morning of Friday, May 3rd, 2013, and KC is worried. He hasn't heard from Maribel since last night, so after leaving another message on her cell phone, KC takes immediate action.
Orange Police Dispatcher Rose.
I have a roommate. She's 36 years old, and she didn't come home last night. I left a cell phone message. She didn't call me back.
The 911 dispatcher alerts KC that if he makes a missing persons report, it will go on Maribel's permanent record. He holds off and instead texts Maribel's sister, Lucy.
Casey texts me at 10 a.m. saying, your sister didn't come home, I called the police. I didn't think anything much of it. Maybe she's, tired or just busy.
But as day starts to turn to night, real concern sets in for the Ramos family. Around 6:40 p.m., Maribel is late for her weekly softball game. She plays on the team with some relatives and her boyfriend, Paul Lopez.
Maribel and Paul Lopez met on Plenty of Fish. It was a dating website.
The two have been dating for about 4 months, but lately the relationship's gotten shaky.
From what I hear, she was on the fence with Paul, whether she did or not like him.
It wasn't exclusive. They both dated other people at the time.
Game time draws near, and there's still no sign of Maribel.
We're just like, something's wrong here, because that's just not Maribel. She's not late. She's just very dependable.
When the game ends, Paul Lopez and a few other teammates rush to Maribel's home.
There's a light on. Dogs are barking like crazy. No one's home. Not even a roommate, no one.
Alarmed, they call the Orange Police Department.
Everything was running through our minds. Is she dead? Is she there but sleeping? Is she just passed out?
When Orange PD arrives, they make multiple attempts to contact Maribel. No luck. They try KC's phone. No answer. So they break in the door.
The initial search basically showed nothing. There was no forced entry, no signs of a struggle, no signs of foul play.
Investigators then receive a curious call from dispatch. Casey Joy had just reported that he's outside Maribel's home and has been watching police the whole time.
They couldn't see him because he was hunkered down in the car. It was dark.
It's odd behavior, but at this point, investigators can't afford to spook KC. They need to find out if he knows anything about Maribel's disappearance.
He acted very cooperative. He said, I don't know where she's at. I last saw her last night. She didn't come home this morning, and I'm worried. The officers asked him if he would come to the police department voluntarily. He said, sure.
It's around midnight when lead detective Joey Ramirez sits down with Casey Joy.
As you know, right now, there's some people, some family and friends that are worried about Maribel, your roommate.
I'm also a friend, and I care about her very much.
So when was the last time that you saw her?
About 9 p.m.
Almost immediately, Ramirez notices something suspicious.
You can see on both his arms very fresh scratches. They were raised, they were red, they had dry blood on them.
How'd you get all these scratches on you?
We go to Eisenhower Park all the time. You go exactly, we pick up other pond. We pick up fishing lines all the time. You go there.
He takes the fishing line out of the bushes to prevent ducks from getting hurt by it. And when he reached into the bushes, he scratched himself up.
So, is that plausible?
Well, it's plausible to scratch yourself on those bushes. There's some vicious thorns on the bushes he was talking about.
KC gives police permission to photograph his scratches. Next, the investigator asks KC what he was doing, apparently staking out Maribel's house earlier that evening.
All those movies and detective movies, somebody always comes back their crime scene or whatever. So I just parked the car in the front. I took my notebook. I had a binocular in there.
So you were doing your own surveillance?
Yes.
So his claim was, I was out in the car waiting for the true killer to come back.
Then, Casey offers up an intriguing new lead about the previous evening when Mirabel disappeared.
Just went out, came back in. When I came back in, she was not here. So that's either Paul picked it up, some guy picked it up. Since I've been here, she had well over 30 days. I said, man, do you not get in trouble with dating 2, 3 guys at a time? That's asking for trouble.
Coming up,
There was a student that she felt uncomfortable around.
She described him as someone that kind of stalked her.
Is this a game changer?
You don't know if she dates other people or not?
I don't ask, don't tell.
May 3rd, 2013. In Orange, California, 36-year-old Army veteran Maribel Ramos has vanished. Her roommate, Casey Joy, and her friends worry as police launch an investigation. Casey offers his full cooperation and sits down for an interview with investigators.
Casey, during the interview, basically said, hey, look, she dates a lot of guys. There's a lot of potential suspects here.
But Casey zeroes in on Maribel's current boyfriend, Paul Lopez.
When I came back in, she was not here. So that's either Paul picked it up, some guy picked it up.
When police check Maribel's cell phone records, one call stands out.
Paul Lopez was the last person to talk with Maribel.
So right away that makes him a suspect.
It does.
The crime of passion is the #1 thing I see. Who knows what was going on with her boyfriend, Paul?
While police track down Paul Lopez, Maribel's family and friends spring into action. They create the Find Maribel Ramos Facebook page.
Can you help us find Maribel?
Everybody was making copies of flyers, and everybody take a bunch and just start passing them out. Let's get the word out.
This is Maribel Ramos' neighborhood where she was last seen sometime Thursday night.
Maribel's sister Lucy goes on TV.
As soon as I got a call that she didn't show up to her baseball game, I got the worst feeling in the world.
A concerned Casey Joy pleads for answers.
She's my only family I have. She's my best friend, and I want her to come back, that's all.
As word of Maribel's disappearance gets out, leads start pouring into the Orange Police Department.
Detective Ramirez. You do?
A classmate of Maribel's calls in an especially intriguing story.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
In the fall of 2010, the tipster attended a fundraiser with Maribel on the Cal State Fullerton campus.
There was a student that she felt uncomfortable around because she felt as though he was trying to get close to her, and she wasn't giving him the attention back, yet he still tried to be in her space.
Buddy, it's all right. We're having a conversation here.
She described him as someone that kind of stalked her. This guy who, quote unquote, stalked her was known to fellow students to have outbursts, anger management issues.
Is this a game changer?
Did you track down who this would-be stalker was?
We did. He was found to be out of the country at the time of the case.
So that immediately eliminates him as a suspect, right?
Maribel's current boyfriend, Paul Lopez, remains a person of interest. 2 days after Maribel disappeared, on the evening of May 4th, he sits down with the Orange PD.
How long have you been dating her? It's been like maybe a few months. Like it's really like
How'd you
a new
meet her?
thing. Online dating.
She liked him for the way he looked, for the fact he had a job. He was a good catch.
Nothing's been like exclusive. It's just been, dating.
Okay.
Yeah.
You date other people too?
Me, yeah.
Okay. You don't know if she dates other people or not?
I don't ask, don't tell.
Detective Ramirez questions Paul on his whereabouts the night Maribel vanished.
But you didn't see her on Thursday at all?
Mm-mm. No, I was at work.
He indicated that he was working for Southern California Edison, and he was doing work calls at that time. Orange PD was able to corroborate what Paul Lopez was saying. They also looked at his cell phone records, and he was never in the city of Orange that night.
Still, Maribel's final conversation on record was with Paul Lopez.
You are the last person who talked to her, and then she disappears. So that's like, kind of huge, really.
Paul says he called Maribel after receiving a frantic text from her.
She had told him that she was upset because Casey Joy didn't have money for the rent again this month.
And the message was enough that Paul Lopez called her.
I called her right afterwards. I called her at 7:30.
Casey doesn't want to pay the rent.
She made a point that the whole conversation was via speaker.
So it's basically a three-way conversation between Paul Lopez, Maribel Ramos, and Casey Joy. She wanted Casey Joy out.
I kind of get like a little tough saying like, if he's not out by tomorrow, that when I come over, after the game, that if his stuff isn't out, then I'm going to get it and throw it out.
You heard him, right?
So that was pretty much the end of the conversation, and that was the last time I heard from her.
Investigators quickly rule out Paul's involvement in Maribel's disappearance, and will soon learn just how volatile the relationship between Casey and Maribel had become. Coming up.
What are you doing?
She basically said, I'm scared. I'm afraid of this guy.
I will honestly cut his head off. I have a machete in my room. I will kill him.
Orange, California police are involved in a desperate search for Maribel Ramos ever since her disappearance 2 days ago, on May 2nd, 2013. After questioning Maribel's boyfriend, Paul Lopez, they learned that she had just had a major argument with her roommate, Casey Joy, over past due rent. And soon investigators discover this wasn't the first time Maribel and Casey had gone at it. On April 21st at 3:45 a.m., 11 days before she vanished, Maribel makes this desperate call to 911.
He has got, feelings for me, and I don't have any feelings for him. He's told me that he has experience. He was even a trainer for, black belt. I swear. I'm scared of him.
She's in such fear, she's crying, and she basically said, I'm afraid of this guy.
I'm just, calling so that you guys know that if something happens, that I did it because I was trying to defend myself. And I will honestly cut his head off. I have a machete in my room. I will kill him.
What precipitated the fight between her and Casey Joy?
They had gone out karaoke, and they drank, and something happened. We believe that he may have professed his love to her.
I don't love you.
What?
We don't have anything. We're just roommates. We're just friends.
Do you think he threatened her?
I think he maybe mentioned something to the effect that if I can't have you, no one will.
But she never revealed that to the police.
Right.
Once Orange police arrive on the scene, the heated roommates cool off, and Maribel never presses charges.
If there's anything else, just give us a call, okay?
Thanks for coming out.
Anytime, thank you.
It's now more than 48 hours since Maribel went missing, and Detective Ramirez's instincts tell him Casey knows more than he's letting on.
Thank you for meeting.
He decides to pay him another visit, and this time he records their conversation.
How are you doing? Are you okay? I'm fine.
Just like in his first interview, Casey is an open book. He even admits that he had feelings for Maribel.
You would like it to be more if you could.
Yeah, she made it very 100% clear that nothing would ever be between us.
When quizzed about the argument over the rent, Casey doesn't deny anything. He claims after the fight, Maribel paid the rent in full, including his share. His story seems legit. This surveillance footage shows Maribel dropping off the rent check at the management office the day she disappeared. It's also the last recorded image of her. Then, Casey says, he and Maribel worked out a deal for his eventual departure from her home.
Okay.
Give me 2 weeks. I move out. I get 350 plus late fee, which is $50.
Next, Casey claims he went for a drive to clear his head. And when he came home, Maribel was gone.
Her door was propped open and the light was on. Yeah. And you looked in there and you could see she was gone. And
investigators collect Maribel's laptop, which Casey also used, as well as his cell phone, hoping they will provide some intel.
It was a dead end. It didn't lead anywhere.
The following day, Orange police obtain a search warrant to do a CSI sweep of the entire home.
The only thing that they found was some blood stains on Maribel's pajama top. It wasn't like a high-velocity spatter mark. So, didn't really pan out to be a whole lot.
They also conduct a forensic search of Casey's car. It's a rental he picked up while his vehicle was in the shop. He returned it on May 3rd, the morning after Maribel went missing. A strange coincidence?
And he told us that the reason he switched that car out was because he had a Friday to Friday rent. So he had to take it back.
Was anything found there?
No.
There wasn't any evidence. There was none. It's like swinging the bat at the ball and missing every time.
It was almost like Casey was saying to the police, "Come on, I dare you to find some evidence. There isn't any."
Investigators know that Casey had feelings for Maribel. And when they question Maribel's sister Lucy, she says that the attraction may have been closer to an obsession.
Hey, what's going on, Casey?
He calls me and he says, I'm in love with her.
And what are you thinking?
I'm like, oh dear, no, this is bad. I said, Casey, you're older. You guys are in different places in your lives.
So what did he respond to that?
He said, I'll think about it. I said, well, what is there to think about? You are not the man for her.
But Casey is willing to take extreme measures to impress Maribel, even if that means literally altering who he is.
Maribel already expressed to him, you're too old for me. At which point, he decides to have facial reconstructive surgery.
So because she said he looks old, he runs out and gets plastic surgery?
Not only did he do that, but she said to him, you look good with a tattoo. He runs out, he comes back, he's got a Bengal tiger tattoo that takes up the whole upper part of his arm.
What 50-something man goes out and gets a huge tattoo because his roommate tells him it would be a good idea? Who is this guy?
That's exactly what police want to know. And when they look deep into Casey's background, they discover a dark side that shines a light on who he really is.
Casey Joy had a sister in Tennessee. When their father passed away, he left the house.
The siblings are supposed to split the house 50-50.
From here, this whole thing has to be...
Well, it turns out that there was a lien against the property that they didn't know about.
But after Casey's sister pays off the debt and sells the property, there isn't much of a profit left over.
He basically threatened to kill her. He would chop her into little pieces.
She was afraid of him.
Is that what she told you?
She did. And he was issued a restraining order.
To police, this incident, along with the 911 call when Maribel reported fearing for her life, are examples of a man barely in control of his temper. And the argument about the rent the night of Maribel's disappearance might have been Casey's breaking point. But without any hard evidence, there's little the police can do. And as for Casey, he isn't keeping a low profile.
He's being interviewed left and right from the media.
Unusual thing was being next day, Friday morning, she was not here. That's unusual. That's when I called the police.
What did you make of the fact that he was inviting the media into the house?
He was just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that they were just friends. Look, I didn't do anything. I don't know where she is.
Voluntarily, they want a DNA sample. They took a picture of my body. They will search the house without a search warrant. I'll give them permission to do it. Go ahead, go for it.
Detective Ramirez puts Casey under 24-hour surveillance.
We had people in cars undercover driving around following him. They would get out at locations where he got out.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon. How may I help you?
Can I use a laptop?
That includes his daily visits to the local public library, where he uses one of their laptops and their Wi-Fi.
You'll have access to it for 1 hour and just bring it back when you're done. Okay?
All right, thank you.
We had a detective basically just checking his activity on the screen periodically, or trying to watch from behind some books.
At first, Casey's web searches are nothing out of the ordinary.
Most of his internet use was looking at media. He would go to the Orange County Register, LA Times, Facebook all the time.
But that soon changes.
They observed him type of search for, can you track a cell phone while it's turned off? Obviously that would set off some red flags.
It's suspicious, but there's nothing you can hang your hat on there.
Right.
But it does convince the police to step up their surveillance.
So, as we were talking on the phone, do you have the computer?
Yeah.
We got a search warrant to monitor his internet use at Orange Public Library.
And install software in this computer to take screenshots. So it's very important that he uses this computer.
Right.
Back at the Orange PD, detectives use remote viewing software to log on to Casey's computer while he's using it. Every site Casey visits, whatever click he makes, he's not alone.
They're monitoring what he's doing live, and they're actually recording it.
Now it's a waiting game. Will Casey's online research give detectives the clues they need to find Maribel Ramos? Coming up.
He was actively searching how long does it take a human body to decay.
Why would he be looking up how long it takes for a body to decompose? Unless he knows there's a body decomposing somewhere.
In Orange, California, police are playing a game of cat and mouse with Casey Joy. They are convinced he has something to do with the disappearance of his roommate, Maribel Ramos, but lack any concrete proof.
Are you feeling like you're never going to solve this case at that point?
I am feeling like this case could be open for a very long time.
Casey frequents a local library to surf the web. He has no idea investigators have tapped into the laptop and can monitor his every move online. But as the days pass, nothing suspicious piques the detective's attention. That is, until May 13th, when Casey logs onto a Yelp message board titled, "My friend Maribel Ramos is missing."
He would post, "Oh, I miss her so much. She always knew I would be there for her."
Authorities notice something very unusual in Casey's posts.
He would talk in past tense, as if she's already gone out of his life.
A fellow Yelp user notices the same thing and calls Casey out on it. Casey counters with, "Thanks for correcting my grammar. That is my second language, and I still need help with that time to time." Detectives realize Casey has been using the same excuse during interviews with them.
So did he put on a thicker accent?
It would be thicker, almost like he must have misunderstood what I said.
So I don't want to say alcohol. I did not.
Right. I'm not trying to play word games with you.
That's
I'm trying to understand and make sure we're clear.
And us not knowing him, okay, this is just how he is.
But those more familiar with Casey tell a very different story.
I can do that.
The neighbor says, "What's with this Asian card?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "We talk to him on a very regular basis, perfect English, and now all of a sudden, he's this very thick Asian accented person." He goes, "That's new."
Curious how his English didn't work when he didn't like the questions from detectives.
While Ramirez and his crew feel like they are getting close to catching Casey slip up, the Ramos family keeps hope alive.
We stay strong as a family. We were working day and night to get the word out.
The family organizes an awareness walk in Peters Canyon, one of Maribel's favorite places. On Thursday, May 16th, they post about it on the Find Maribel Ramos Facebook page.
Hopefully everybody can meet us out there. We want as much people as possible. Bring water, bring your hiking shoes.
That same day, investigators continue to monitor Casey's computer activity. They remotely watch his every keystroke, his every page view. Casey checks his email, looks at various message boards, and even fills out a job application. But then,
he was actively searching how long does it take a human body to decay.
Why would he be looking up how long it takes for a body to decompose unless he knows there's a body decomposing somewhere?
Casey is just getting started. Next, he looks up the Find Maribel Ramos Facebook page.
And he sees that they're going to do an awareness walk out in the Peters Canyon area. And he Google Maps Peters Canyon, and he zooms in on it.
You can see him zoom out.
And he kind of scrolls over and he starts zooming in on a location out by Santiago Canyon Road and Jackson Ranch Road.
It's a location only 9 miles away from where the awareness walk is taking place.
There's a large tree kind of at that intersection area. Remote canyon. And he gets in real close to this tree.
I think you need to let Ramirez know about this one.
Yeah. The tech just says, oh my God, I think he just zoomed in on where he may have put her body.
It looks like this guy may have gone back to the scene of the crime virtually. It's like a virtual drive-by.
If Maribel's body is at that location, investigators need to get there before KC does.
Without a body, what would have been the chances of you solving this case?
0.
Coming up.
Something went wrong, and you know more.
Is he a flight risk?
He's absolutely a flight risk.
His attitude was, look, if I can't have her, no one's going to have her.
Orange, California investigators have been looking for Maribel Ramos ever since her disappearance on May 2nd, 2013. Now, 2 weeks into the case, they believe her roommate Casey Joy may have just given them the ultimate break. A suspicious Google map search.
I'm thinking he's doing a virtual drive-by of the crime scene. This is where she's at. The detectives had to go through barbed wire to get to the site.
45 minutes into the search, Detective Ramirez gets the call he's been waiting for.
Was it what he was looking at?
The guy said, hey Joey, we found her.
They knew it right away that it was Maribel?
They assumed it had to be.
But the body is so badly decomposed that detectives can't make a positive ID. Now it's a race against time. Investigators don't want information about the discovery of the body getting out, especially to KC.
Is he a flight risk?
He's absolutely a flight risk.
The following morning, the autopsy results come in. The body is Maribel Ramos.
They've identified her off dental records and a tattoo.
They determined that she died at the hands of another.
But the manner of death, how she was killed, were they able to ever distinguish that?
No.
The coroner could not determine a cause of death due to the animal activity and the decomposition.
Police can't stop news of the body's discovery from hitting the media. Around 10 a.m., the surveillance team is watching Casey's house when suddenly
he jumps out a bedroom window and takes off down the street.
But KC doesn't get far. Officers catch up with him a few blocks away. At the Orange police station, KC is escorted to a place he is all too familiar with.
Thanks for coming down here voluntarily. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so now you've got him. You say you found the body. Do you tell him that?
No.
Why not?
Because we believe he knew we found the body. I didn't have to tell him. This was his opportunity to tell us his side of what happened.
I'm actually here to listen to you. Okay, I'm here to listen to
everything on that.
They basically kind of get in his grill a little bit and say, look, you're not being honest with us.
Something went wrong, and you know more. Okay, I know that too.
And Casey said, look, we're kind of beating a dead horse. I don't have anything else to say, and I want to leave.
Casey, I think that you have the answers in your heart, that you do, and that you should share them.
Casey leaves the interrogation room. Moments later, he is arrested and charged with the murder of Maribel Ramos. It's a bittersweet moment for Maribel's family. They're relieved her body has been found and Casey is in custody, But now they must deal with the grief that comes with losing someone who meant the world to them.
What was that like for you? I have no words for it. I have no words for it whatsoever. But I was just thankful that we found her. That we know.
Unfortunately, Maribel's family and friends have to wait more than a year for the case to go to trial, and they know prosecutors face an uphill battle.
There were very unique issues in this case. Not having a cause of death was a major one.
Although Casey's internet searches and virtual drive-by of the crime scene are pretty damning, the evidence against him remains largely circumstantial.
The jury would have to take a leap of faith because no one in that courtroom was going to be able to tell them what exactly happened.
There's one person in this room that led us to the body, and it's that man right there, Mr. Joy.
But prosecutor Scott Simmons has a theory about how and why the murder occurred. In July 2014, he presents it to the jury.
The opportunity for him to be with the love of his life was coming to an end.
I can't take this anymore, right?
After Maribel tells Casey that he needs to move out, Simmons says the lovelorn roommate makes a drastic decision.
I think he basically came to the realization at that point, okay, it's over, I gotta get out. And I believe what happened was his attitude was, look, if I can't have her, no one's gonna have her.
That's when Simmons says Casey set his sights on murder.
Casey Joy was a black belt in martial arts, and I think he caught her off guard, where she's kind of defenseless. I think she was sleeping, and I think that's when he stuffs the pillow over her face. He suffocated her. And as he does that, she scratches him. I think, arguably, the scratches on his right tricep are consistent with scratches from fingernails.
Next, prosecutors theorize that Casey put Maribel's body in the trunk of his car and drove about 15 miles to Santiago Canyon.
Here he is driving the woman he loved, his only family, out into the desert to be left like an animal?
They believe the rest of Casey's scratches came from the rugged canyon terrain. I'm walking in the canyon where authorities believe Casey buried Maribel. Being here, you can really see the prosecution's point. Traversing this area in pitch blackness without getting scratched up would be near impossible. Casey's defense leans heavily on the fact that there's no hard proof that a murder even occurred.
A crime will be proven here, and the crime that will be proven is improper disposal of a body.
The defense states that Maribel's death could have been an accident or even a suicide.
I basically argued, look, do you really believe a person who's innocent, right? You come home and a person's committed suicide, so an innocent person is going to say, let me wrap this body up, throw it in my trunk, drive it out to the canyon, and bury it.
On July 23, 2014, the jury returns with their verdict. They find Casey Joy not guilty of premeditated first-degree murder, but guilty of murder in the second degree.
The jury didn't believe there was enough for the premeditation and deliberation aspect of it.
Casey Joy is sentenced to 15 years to life.
If my sister was taken from me, I would be so angry at the person who did this. Thankfully, I know that he'll be taken care of and he'll pay for every tear of mine and my family's on here on earth. And in the afterlife, he still has some more coming towards him.
One of the things just to keep her memories, actually do a tattoo on my arm in memory of her. She was always having fun, always smiling. He's just big heart, big heart.
Maribel's legacy also lives on in Giselle, who posthumously accepted Maribel's degree in criminal justice at Cal State Fullerton. She'll continue to look up to her aunt as her ultimate hero.
It was a really happy but hard moment. When I walked up there, I just knew she was there with me.
Ultimately, the family, to me, they solved this case. When they posted that walk, they put him in a tailspin.